Where has all this diversity come from? It didn't just spring from nowhere. It has to have come from somewhere. The answer to this question draws attention to the variance in demand for education. Different family backgrounds, low income, middle class, elite class, their demand for education is not the same, it's varied. And therefore there is a variance at the start from the family level, from the parents' level for the kind of education that they want. And this emanates from the ethnically diverse and ideologically divided society of Pakistan. We have lots of cultural groups, we have lots of traditional groups, we have lots of ideological groups. People with different ideologies, with different cultural backgrounds want different things for their children. And in order to provide all that cannot happen in one type of school. Schools and educational institutions will have to be different. If I want a religious education for my child, well, policies will have to be different. If I want a more liberal, secular education for my child, policies will need to be different. If I want a vocational education and training for my child, my policies will have to be yet different. And therefore, how does one deal with this diversity that springs up because we are different kinds of people? Some segments of population are interested to get their children educated in schools with English as the medium of instruction, while others prefer those schools which focus on Islamic education or both. Now, English medium education does not mean that there is no religious or Islamic education in those schools. And neither does Islamic or madrasa education mean that there is nothing beyond religious education in those schools. But how much? Where do you make the balance? That is important. That needs to be addressed. How much religious education, how much teaching of the Quran and Islamic history and the Hadith should private English medium schools do, and how much secular education, other subjects, should religious or madrasa education and schools do? Somewhere that balance needs to be brought out. But other than that, parents have a choice, or should have a choice, of where they want their children to go. In rural areas, parents favor single-sex schools for older girls, due to which growth of girls' private schools has been much higher than that of the mixed school. Now, not just in rural areas, I think even in many urban and suburban areas today, we still want our girls to go to a single-sex, all-girls school. We don't want our girls to go in a co-ed situation for whatever reasons. I think when the two genders mix and they work together, they begin to learn how to interact and work with each other. When you keep them separate, and suddenly then at the university level they come together, they really are not aware of how to behave with the opposite gender. And then the universities have to work much harder trying to make them understand what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. But as long as parents demand, we saw the demand side pressures, when parents demand separate schools for girls, then that is what will need to be provided, either by the government or by the private sector. Who does it is not important. The fact that it needs to be done is more important. Such differential demands for a certain kind of education within a particular school environment has given rise to a vibrant private educational marketplace in Pakistan, with parents demanding different sorts and types and levels of education for their children based on their own education, maybe their own upbringing, their own immediate community and societal environments. Because of that, Pakistan has a vibrant, rich mixture of private educational institutions which should be valued, which need to be nurtured for whatever they do. The simple thing that the government or the policymakers need to focus on is, whatever the type of private education institution or school is it providing quality education, effective for students, 5, 8, 10, 20 years down the line when they will be living their real lives. In other words, are these diversified private schools preparing students for their future?